JuliClemons, Julie Clemons.
Perfect. Um, so, I mean, tell me about your life a little bit. I mean, can you just like start off by just kind of describing yourself and your family?
Well, when I was born in Mountain View, Missouri, and when I was 18 months, I got adopted by Betty and Bill, and they adopted me, and they had their daughters and stuff. So I actually arrived on Easter morning and came and did the whole sunrise service with them and everything, and then we went to church and did all that, and then came home. And later on, a couple months from then, we had an adoption party, and then I started school down here and went all through school playing sports and hanging out with friends and living in a much better environment. It was pretty rough where I'd come from, so I had a stable life and everything, and it helped. And then I went through elementary and then got up to high school and started playing volleyball and cheerleading and doing all the sports. They got to chase me around. My older sister Hillary followed me a lot, and they had a daughter, Gretchen. She was killed in a car wreck, so I kind of took over at that point. And then later on, towards my junior high year, they adopted my brother Webb, and so me and him were really close, and we always did activities together, and they were really supportive and never seemed like they were a different family or anything. They just took us in, and we all had a big happy family. And then went through high school and went on to college and went and did my business degree thing up there, and got out of that, decided that wasn't for me, went to EMT school, and I got in a wreck and broke my collarbone. And so then I had several stumbles there, but then I work up here at the high school after college and stuff. And in college I met Peyton's dad, and I have a son, Peyton, and then we had Sierra Green after that. Me and him divorced and all that, so it's been bumpy, but now I'm working at the high school and feeding the kids up there and having a life of my own and family, and it's been a weird go, but we're going good.
Well, I mean, I would love to hear kind of about that sunrise service that you were talking about. What do you remember from that first service with the Byrnes?
Well, it was kind of weird. I got picked up, and I was just a little person, but they say you don't remember very much of it, but I remember pretty much all of it. I got picked up by the DFS from my other family and brought down here, and it was like 1, 2 in the morning, and they knocked on the door over here, and they opened it up, and they said, "She's all yours." And then I was given to Mom, and of course didn't know what was going on in the middle of the night, so she took me in there and rocked me and everything until everybody woke up, and Hillary and them come down the stairs, and they were all excited, and I was there now. And then we all got in the car and went out to sunrise service up on E Highway up on a hill. They had the crosses all out there ready for the church service and stuff, and it was kind of like pass me around. They all passed me around, and I got to meet a lot of people and got to be welcomed into the family and everything. And then come home, and Gretchen was still there at that point, and we did a Easter egg hunt and stuff when we got home, and I run around in my little pink dress, and my sisters helped me find the eggs, and we all had a family run around and gathered eggs and stuff, and then did our Easter baskets and all that. But it was just a fun part of my life where I got to come in, and a really exciting, fun time for that morning. And so,
What was it like growing up on the farm?
oh, it was definitely busy. I loved it. I was an outdoor kid. When I was little, I'd go with Dad, and I'd ride in the tractor when he did the hay, and got to see the cows, and of course I always wanted to touch them, and we'd go out and feed them, and we feed the chickens and the ducks and all those animals. And then I just built a fence and learned as I went to do all that stuff with my dad and Mom and brother, and then we rode four-wheelers, and it was the good country life. We liked it.
Well, and what kind of lessons do you think you learned from that?
Learned how to work and learned how to live, and then we learned like how you raise animals and how to treat things and the respect and just the well-rounded things that I wouldn't get the other place. So.
Well, I mean, did it ever feel any different? Did you ever feel any different than, the biological kids?
Well, in high school I went through a phase where I realized, wait, I was adopted, kind of what does this mean? And it kind of was confusing, and I actually met my biological sisters at the skating rink one night. I didn't really know anything about them because they didn't know if they should tell me if it hurt feelings or not. But then we actually met, and it was really neat that I got to see them. But they lived with their dad or grandpa. We're not really sure which, because I don't know the connection there really. But it was really different to see how they were living versus how I was living, because their life was harder. They didn't have, as much, and they still dealt with the other side of the family a lot, and they had more turmoil and wasn't as settled and stuff. But then, like, I invited them into our life, and so they actually started coming over to my mom's and hanging out some and being more involved with our family and stuff. And now we're all involved with each other, and it's a whole lot better for them all around.
Well, and how have you been able to, like, pull in all these families? What does it take to have that village that you've created?
Well, it has your moments. I mean, it's hard, and there's gonna be, we went through some jealousy of, well, you get to go live a life and it's better, and my life's hard, and then we're all just there for each other and we talk it through. And then I went over to their house a lot and hung out with them and helped them and been around them, and they've been there for me, and me and my sister just became really close and realized that, we are family. Even though I'm adopted, we're family. And I had an older brother, and he was kind of the caretaker of all of us girls. He said that he was the only boy, but he was ganged up with all these girls. But he actually passed away, so then since then it's been kind of rough with the girls, but it's better. And so we just make sure and keep in touch and check on each other, and we're not around each other all the time, but it's still pretty good.
Have you ever had, like, a gathering with, like, Hillary and with them and with Bill and Betty,
Yeah.
everybody all together?
Yeah, any like holiday, we invite them over and they come with their families, and we get together on Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter. They come to the Easter get-togethers, and we do the egg hunts and all that, and they also come around deer season and just all that. Her kids come stay at my house, my kids come stay at their house. We're all joined and we're all there.
Do you have a favorite memory of one of those times?
When I got adopted was a pretty good one, and then I've been in all their weddings with them, and then their graduations, just all the fun times we've had together. I really don't have an absolute favorite, but
Describe Adoption Day.
Adoption Day was pretty fun. I was little, so I didn't understand it. We come down, and I had left and I had come back and was with him for a while, and I didn't really know what was going on. Mom was having a get together, and all these people were coming over, and then my little friends were over there, and we were all running around playing on the trampoline, and I come inside, and I didn't know I was getting adopted or anything, and I come inside and they said, "Congratulations, you're adopted," and I had a cake, and they got me a teddy bear that was as big as I was, and so I'd carry that thing around, but they had a clown there, and I kept trying to rip off its hair because I didn't understand. I was like, "Oh, you're fake" or something. I don't know what I was thinking, but then it turns out I couldn't rip off its hair. Somebody had dyed their hair or something. I don't know, but it was pretty fun to meet up with everybody and see everybody, and they threw a big party, and I have an adoption book they made me, and it had everybody's names in it, and it described like my new name and all that, because I got to change my birth certificate and all that to Julie Byrne, and it's pretty exciting.
Well, and how is that carried on, in your life and, the community that you've built with your husband now and his kids?
It definitely, I know like where they come from, because their mom isn't around. So I step in, and I know some of their feelings, and I know, how to care for them if they're emotional, and I guess it made me realize, more about people and to be more caring and try to interact. If somebody's bothered, I tend to be a helper, like really involved. If somebody's hurting or bothered or upset, or if they're happy-go-lucky, it seems like I'm always there. I try to be more involved, but I got married to my husband, and he has 3 kids, and so we all just intertwined. And when they're getting into it, I'm like, remember, you guys are going to be the ones that are always there for each other. You might not see it now, but we're always there. So.
Where do you think you learned that from?
Cut in for just a
sorry.
second. Shane, just in case if you want for a little more wind protection, you can hold that right in front of her knees, and you're not gonna be in the shot if that'll help with the
I'm
wind at
good
all.
too, I'm here.
Yeah, so just to let you know, that wind is a little brutal. Yeah, at the moment, so, yeah, it might get a little extra. Okay, we can keep on going.
Where do you think you learned that from?
Definitely my mom and dad, when they took me in, their life lessons they've taught me, you know, because I came and I was wild. Like my mom and dad, they'd always have, the mom and dad before, they'd always have fights, and there was always cop calls, and I remember several times being in the car and she'd get pulled over, and she's a big drinker, and it was always chaos there, and it was nice to come and be in a family where it was calm, and there wasn't chaos, and we could just do our own thing, and be with each other and have the comfort and security. And so they definitely taught me a lot about how life is and how to work with each other and take somebody in and teach them what they need to know in their life, their way that you act, the way you help out, the responsibilities. Well around it, we always did chores to help mom out on the weekends and did laundry, and she taught us how to cook and clean and the basics of life. And then that's what I just try to do with my family, is I try to help them. This is how we clean. We have clean on the weekends, and then we do the deer cutting up, and I just try to make them well-rounded. I've always wanted outdoor kids that could know how to fend for themselves if they had to, and that's just what I try to do with mine.
Now, you said that you were wild.
Oh yeah, when I first came, I remember I'd flip over the sofas, I'd run around, I was everywhere. Mom said it was like terrible twos. She would just like turn her back and who knows where I was, because I was sociable and I wanted to see everybody and talk to everybody. I had a whole new world to run and play, and I was quite busy.
Well, and I mean, do you kind of see that in your kids, like running around?
Oh yeah. Mine definitely go and venture, and I let them just, as long as I know what you're doing, you're fine. They run and play in the woods and build forts and play with the dogs, and they'll go take the four-wheelers over and go to the pond and go fishing and hunting, and it's nice to live in the country where they can roam more and not have to worry about them as much.
Can you talk to me a little bit about Bill teaching you how to hunt and then you trying to pass that on?
Oh yeah, we went out to, when I was little, he used to take us, and he'd always keep the guns on his side, and we'd travel out to deer camp. We'd get out to deer camp, and we'd go out and we'd go to hunt, and he'd always tell us, now make sure your safety's on, and here's how you load your gun, and he was always right there holding the gun with us and all this, and he'd put me up on his lap, and he'd let me look through the scope and shoot it, so he made sure I didn't look at my eye and knock it with the scope, because I got really good at that a few times. There's always been a kind of a joke about me deer hunting, because I would always go out with him, and we'd just know we had it down, and I'd see a deer and get excited, and I'd scope myself a few times. And even when I got older, he'd work with me, and we'd go to the shooting range, and we'd try to get shooting. And I got to where I was out of school and went hunting with him one morning. I was actually training for EMT, and I was in my uniform getting ready. I was like, oh, Dad, we can have a hunt before we go. And I went up, and a deer walked out, and I raised my gun up, and sure enough, it never failed to hit the scope so hard that it busted my face, and it blacked my eye. But at first I couldn't see nothing, and I told Dad, I said, I've done it, and I've shot my eye out. And he said, well, just hold your gun down, he said, and I'll come get it. And blood was everywhere. It was bad. So it's always been kind of a joke about me shooting. And then, but we have fun together, and we always go out to deer camp where we take everybody out there, and we have the snacks, and we do the cooking and the hanging out, and we play cards and games. It's a good environment. We're always real close with those. We've had the same group for as long as I remember. So.
Well, what was it like when you first started teaching Peyton how to shoot?
It was pretty nerve-wracking. Dad worked with him a lot, because I'd see him go to shoot and I would get nervous, but I held the gun with him, and he'd shoot just like I taught Dad. Dad taught me, and then Dad worked with him a lot, and he loved it, so he'd take him out on little hunts too at first, and because I wasn't really sure exactly how to show him. I know he showed me, but I wasn't sure exactly how to show them, and so he was a big part of that too, and he's always been a big part of the kids' lives, him and Mom would take them out and sit with them and let them hunt with her, and so we always try to make sure that the main thing is they're safe and the gun safety's there and stuff. But they've learned. And then when they shot their first deer at camp, we always make sure they know how to gut it. It's a big thing at camp. When you shoot first deer, you have to gut it yourself. Well, not yourself. They show you and everything, but you got to be there and interact and stuff. So they started out there, but when he shot his first deer, he was still pretty young, and so when he was skinning it out, I'd worry about the knives, and several times I'd be like, "Oh, Mom, about the knives," and Mom would be like, "Oh, it's okay, just let them go." And so it was hard at first, but I realized that I just had to let it go and let them learn. So that was just part of that.
Is that how you were taught? Just
Yeah, they took me out, and Dad and his friend Dave out there, they'd hang the deer and then they'd show you. And Dad actually started me. He'd work the one side of the deer and I'd work the other. And then was kind of crazy with the knives every now and then, so he'd move back because I would be coming on the one side and he'd be on the other. But yeah, we've always just kind of shown each other and tried to teach all the kids. There's about 10 of them out at deer camp, and they'd always work with the littler kids and show them. And we had a really cooperative, calm group, and so it made it easy.
Can you talk to me a little bit about your sister and just your relationship with Hillary?
Hillary and me, we've always bonded. Like, she'd always carry me around and take me to games, and as we've grown up, like, I've always watched her volleyball when she played. And then once we grew up, we lived in different places. Like, she lived in South Carolina, I lived in Powder Bluff, but we still talked and stuff. And then as she's come down here, we go over to her house and play with the kids, and we've always been close. It doesn't really feel like I'm adopted. Like, she's never made me or my brother or any of us feel like we're adopted or that we're a different family or any of that, so that's been really nice. And we have that bond, and now that she's a doctor, it's nice that we can check on her that way. So she has the caring world for us, just in the regular and then the doctor side of it. And so we've always had a big connection, even though it's not biological, because it's not really there. It's almost like this has just always been my family, because it was when I was 18 months old, so it's been really nice.
What about your relationship with your brother? Your
Biological?
Webb.
Webb, when he was
Webb.
adopted?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he come into my life when he was a teenager, and I was little, and he had some siblings, but like, he come from a really rough life. He was in foster care for lots of years, and so we'd get along really great. And he'd always want to roughhouse and stuff, and I was littler, and we'd get to roughhouse, and it seemed like we'd always get in a tiff, and Mom's like, "No, guys," but we've always got along too and really close. And it was nice to have another kind of adopted person in the family, because when you thought of something, or like adopted kids had a question about, like, what do you think about being adopted and stuff, you kind of went and asked him, or we bounced back and forth between like different questions on like how life was or our feelings. Or like, I went through a stage where I was asking him, "Do you ever wonder who your parents are and all this?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he ended up finding his, and they lived in Nixer. He always knew about him. And then I figured out my mom was just in Birch Tree and found out who she was. And then I went through a time where I wondered about her and met her and stuff, and then I realized, that's probably not for me. And so me and him's both had those times in life, and it's been neat because we can always compare and be there for each other and work and see how things are in each other's lives. But yeah, we're extremely close. He comes up here, I go down there. His kids stay here, they stay down there. It's almost like a joint parenting thing. Like, he'll watch out for my kids, I'll watch out for his. We're just the family.
Day for you would be?
Well, every day it's pretty much the same pattern, kind of, because we go to school, and I get up in the morning, and my day starts about 4:30, and I gotta be at work at 5, cooking in the kitchen. And then I cook there at the kitchen. The kids go to the same school, so I get to see them through the day. And so I cook at 5 to 1, and then I'm off at 1, and I'll come home and clean house or do errands or whatever until the kids get off at 3, and then the bus will drop them off, and we'll do their homework together, or play together, or find something to do. And then their dad will get home at 5:30, and we'll have dinner and spend family time. We'll watch TV, or we'll go out riding, or do something with the kids, and then we'll start showers and baths, and go to bed and wake up and do it all over again. And then on the weekends we try to have downtime or do more fun stuff with them, or do that on occasion. Fun.
Well, and I mean, you have a business degree, right?
No.
No? You just went to business school for
Yeah.
a little while? Okay, and decided, okay. Just because I know that my mom, she loved working for the school. I mean, she still works for the school
Yeah.
to this day.
I love it because you can be home every time they're off break. You don't have to find a babysitter. You can be there, know what's going on, be more involved, I think. And I mean, the kids try to act like when they're older, they, oh, well, that's my mom. I don't care, but they'll still come up and talk to you if they need something. You're there, and it makes it easy when they're off. It just gives us more time together and all that. So I really like being at school with my kids.
Well, and Betty was a school teacher, too.
Yeah, and she was there when I was in school, and I'd go down, and I remember going to her room and just saying, hey, and how's it doing, or she'd give me a drink or something. So, I mean, it was kind of like I'm following in her footsteps in a way, even though we didn't do the same job. We kind of, we're just always been there for the kids.
Do you guys have any questions?
Let's
or?
check with the values questions. You know, we got the work and the making do with less and the
I guess, what values do you hold in your household would be a good question. Do you have like any, so like Bill and Betty, one of the main things that they talk to us about is they want to try to do more with less. Would you say that that's something you're,
Yeah.
yeah?
We aren't all about money. We try to just teach the basics and the, like the hunting and the fishing and be there for the kids and let them learn and grow as they want and just kind of guide them along. We don't have to have big fancy things and stuff. That doesn't mean anything or build family for you. It's just there for each other and all that.
Are you?
Okay, Jim, you have anything you want to?
Yeah, I would just jump back to working at the school for a second because
Sorry.
essentially, you're what we used to call when I was a kid going to middle school a lunch lady.
Yes.
And the lunch ladies were sort of like, almost like a counselor that you could go to if you weren't going to go to the counselor. Does that role come into play for you at the school? And
Oh yeah. Yeah, we do cook, but a lot of times, like, since I work at a small school, we have kids that come in and during their classes on the restroom break, they'll come over and talk to us, or if one's having a bad day, it seems like they come down and talk to us. And I didn't realize that when I first started cooking. I was like, yeah, I'm just cooking, but I realized that you are kind of like the counselor also if they don't go up there, because they do come around and tell you what's going on in their life. And it's amazing what kids will come in and share, and it's just nice to be able to be there for them too. And that's another part of the job that I like. It's just a well-rounded, like, you're involved with the food, but you're involved with the kids, and you really get to know them, and it's almost like all of them are more of like your kids than really it's a job. And so that's the more involvement part I like too. Because if they're having a bad day, you can always make them smile, or you can make them treats, and because some kid might not get treats at home or something, so just a little smile with their face is easy.
the other question that I would have is, your mom and dad are at the time were considered back to the landers, and I'm sure you've heard that phrase. And
Yeah.
I just, what does that mean to you? And do you feel like it had any impact on you growing up, or was it just part of life?
It was part of life, but it did have an impact on me. Like, they did try to do more stuff, like outdoors, to raise the cattle, and like I was taught that that was part of what you do. Like, you raise cattle, you raise animals, then you can sell them off to be part of your income, or like they would go out and get deer and bring it in, and they lived off the land some when they first started, and as they still do. Like, we go out and hunt and fish, and it teaches us all that, and we gained a lot from that, and it's taught us a lot of how to live off the land and just be not so dependent on all the other parts of the world. Like, we can, like, if something happened, we could probably take care of our family just living off around here. So it's taught us a lot.
Do you think that's different than how other folks are raised around here?
Yeah. We have had some kids come over that didn't know how to hunt or do any of that, and we work with them and show them, and we're always taking anybody who wants, they can come in, and we like to help them and show them. And definitely some people from the city come down and they don't understand it at all. Like, they're just amazed at what you can do down here versus up there with the woods and all the things we can do in the woods and stuff, and like we can drink out the spring water and all that you don't have in the city.
And what are your I'm back over here now. What are your hopes for your kids?
I hope they learn the same traits and qualities and they can take it on to their kids, like they can learn to live off the land if they need to, or they can learn what life's like and that you don't have to have all this stuff to live, that it can be basic and simple and still have a good life, and because we don't try to make it complicated, more laid back and easy.
Okay, are we ready to wrap?
I will say, is there anything that you just want to talk about, or like anything you want to say or get out there?
No,